Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting each episode by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast, the people it's reaching, the messages I get on a weekly basis. This is my passion project, and my objective really was to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. And I really do feel like there's so many other beings guiding this podcast, and I feel so very blessed with it. I am an Akashic record reader, I'm a Akashic trainer, I'm a podcast host, I'm a podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I love doing is guiding people to release the layers to truly become their authentic selves. I really do feel like we're being pushed right now to be authentic, to connect with our gifts, to really release the layers that we're holding on to. And I love to guide people who are ready for that shift to truly become authentic. I feel blessed with what I get to do. And one of the amazing things I get to do with this podcast is I've interviewed some amazing guests. And I'm excited to have Meridith on this podcast today. She's only somebody I've met recently, but such a beautiful light. And I'm excited for this conversation. So Meridith, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so delighted to be here. My name is Meridith Grundei. I live in New York City. I would say as my trade, I'm a public speaking and presentation skills coach, but I come through my coaching using improvisational theater techniques to help my clients. And I do that because there's so much joy in the practice, and there's nothing better than being able to work with individuals, whether that be in groups or one-on-one, and having the gift of laughter throughout. It's good medicine, not just for me, but for them, for all of us in general. So that's how I approach, and I get to work with really incredible human beings who have a lot of wisdom and a lot of stories to tell. And there's nothing better than seeing someone give themselves permission to share those stories and those gifts.
Wow, that's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful way to expand people, to allow them to be authentic. And it feels like they connect to a different energy and a different vibration. And it feels like you give them space to be their authentic selves. I love that. I love that. So tell me, how are you feeling about the current energy, the current shift with the people, with the people you work with, your clients and the people you talk to? Are you feeling a shift
Mm.
around? Are you feeling people react differently when you work with them? Just curious how you're feeling with the current energy.
I'm definitely feeling the shift. I'm definitely feeling the energy. I feel it with the communities that I am a part of. I feel it with my clients. I feel that there is a lot of uncertainty, that most people, I feel, struggle with change. We're not we're not conditioned or taught how to negotiate change, and so that leaves people, I would imagine, feeling groundless in a lot of ways, or powerless. And so when people can't control something, other reactions happen, right? Whether that be through making uh, reactionary choices or decisions, or whether that be leaning more into spirituality, or whether there's many ways that people react to things. So yes, I'm feeling it. And I have my own ebbs and flows with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. It's interesting you talk about change. I mean, I talk a lot about we're shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, and I feel like the change that's coming, I feel people's fear. And it's just change is an interesting, because as you say, as humans, a lot of people say, I love change, I love change, I'm excited by change. I feel like we love change when we see it coming. And the unknown, I feel, does kind of gives us a bit of imbalance. And I personally, I'd have to say, I'm excited about what's coming. I feel the shift. I feel like my soul, my spirit is ready for it.
Hmm.
But I also feel my human has some concerns, has a bit nervous, and it's all good, right?
Yeah, it
But
is.
I'd love to know how you feeling personally about the shift. What do you feel when you connect to the energy and the vibration of what's going to the planet? How do you feel about what's coming for you?
I've there's many layers to how I feel, and it sometimes changes depending on the day, I'll be honest. Like yesterday, I'll start with yesterday. Yesterday, I was feeling real concern for the people in my life that I love dearly who are in marginalized communities, whether that be because they're trans or they're a person of color or what have you. And so what that did for me was it caused me to reach out to those people and just say, I'm here for you. I love you. I can't imagine because I'm not you what you're going through right now. But know that I am here. So that's what I felt called to do yesterday because I I I am in a very privileged place where I do feel that I have choice. So I have choice in the decisions that I make. I don't need to stay in New York City if I don't want to. I can leave the United States if I need to. I I have choice. Um, so today, presently, right now, I feel, and perhaps it's because I'm on this podcast with you and having this conversation with you, but I feel a sense of calmness. I feel that what is supposed to unfold is going to unfold. And I do happen to be one of those people that I would say 75% of the time I love living in the unknown.
It's interesting when you say 70, and it's important we acknowledge the parts of us that are excited about what's coming and the parts of us that are, you know, feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that feeling because the shift that's happening, I feel like our spirit's ready for it. And I feel like a human struggling with it. And that's kind of, and it's kind of interesting. I feel like sometimes I trigger people and I feel like I'm meant to. My view is always pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Mm.
So with the
Mhm.
pain that people are going through and with the pain, I feel like the next couple of years for this planet is going to be intense. And, for full insight, we're recording this on Thursday, 30th. Yesterday was new moon. Also, it was the Lunar New Year. Today, Uranus goes direct. So it's like a shift on the planet. But also, energetically, there's a lot happening on the planet, right? And I feel like there's going to be so many shifts coming,
Mhm.
and so many people are meant to experience pain. And I feel like our role is to hold space, allow people to experience that pain,
Yeah.
but to not suffer. So I
Mhm.
feel like the thing that you did yesterday intuitively to reach out was to let people know that you're holding space.
Mhm.
You can't fix it for them, right? It's not for you to fix. It's
Right.
just, but it's important that people know that you're there to hold space. And
Yeah.
that is the role I feel like we all have an option to play. But the interesting thing is, as humans, we want to fix things. So when somebody's feeling pain, our natural reaction that we're programmed to do is to go into solution mode, especially the males of the world. I mean, it's true for both, but the masculine energy is very much about fixing things, right? It's that kind of,
Mhm.
and it's going to be interesting for us, right? It's going to be interesting for us as the planet shifts. Do we focus on the external noise, or do we focus on how it makes us feel to do the internal healing?
Oh, I feel
And
the internal healing part. I strongly feel that if each individual gave themselves the gift to feel and drop in internally and take responsibility for the feelings and the person that they are, that we would be living in a we'd be living in a very different world.
there's no right or wrong, right? People are going
No.
to be somewhere in the middle, right?
Yep.
And I'm not telling it. I'm not I'm not oblivious to what's happening on the planet. I'm not telling people to ignore.
Yeah.
It's like you did. You sent love to where it was needed, which is exactly what we should do. There's
Yeah.
pain on the planet. Let's send love to where it's needed. But ultimately, if we focus on ourselves, our light becomes so much brighter, and actually we can be that guy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So putting you on the spot a little bit, what's the work that you're doing for yourself to truly kind of shine your light?
I am surrounding myself in communities of people who I feel are doing the work, which means that they're doing whatever that work means to them as individuals, but whether that be their breath work or their spiritual work or their meditation or their the way that they show up and communicate in the world. I'm lucky that I'm married to a man who's all about the work. Um, I I have it under my roof, and I'm constantly in awe of just him as a partner too, and it's a good, like, mirror sometimes for the work I maybe am not doing. Um, so I also so that has been, like, a big energetic exploration for me. If I were to put it in those terms, it's like when I go into a space or I meet a new person, I'm asking myself the question, how do I feel when I'm in relation to this person? How do I feel when I leave the conversation with this person? Am I high vibing right now? Or do I feel like I need to go get
Really
a
powerful.
drink on my way home?
And both are great, by the way. Both
Well,
are good
they're fine,
options. Yeah.
but I would rather get a drink when I'm vibing rather than not. So, that's how I've been taking care of myself, and then also just looking at myself in the mirror and checking myself. Because sometimes I get a little out of check. I gotta rebalance,
Yeah.
recalibrate. So it's I'm in constant curiosity mode.
I love it. I love it. And it's really interesting. Again, the shift that we're going through, I feel like community is so much more important than it used to
Yes.
be.
Yeah.
So the communities you're creating feels really important. And it's easy to judge and it's easy to, but I would again recommend people to focus on the internal work. The way I see the world is we're all playing the roles that we're expected to, and everybody in our world is playing the roles that we ask them to play. So it's interesting when
Mm.
you say you're lucky with your husband, the first thing that comes to mind is actually you're not lucky, because this is how my world, my mind, my heart works. Is you're not really lucky. It's a soul contract. But anyway, that's just like, because you picked each other, right? As souls,
Right.
for whatever you're here to do on the planet, it's what you picked. So
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about kind of soul contracts and knowing that whoever's meant to be in your world is in your world and playing the role they're meant to play?
Oh, I believe wholeheartedly that the people that have been in my life are there for a reason. I've had, you know, I've gone through many transformations in my life as we all have, but from being deeply spiritual, because my parents introduced me to church and the people that brought me up there, to then questioning all of that, and because of a professor of mine in undergrad and studying Eastern philosophy and learning, so just everything turned upside down for me, to then having a boss who was a narcissist and like having to so and then an ex-husband, and now a new, so we meet these people throughout our lives, and I have to say I do not uh regret any of those relationships, because they have only helped me become a stronger human being. Because of I will say something I feel like I was born with is just I was born with a natural, like, I'm just always curious. I just want to know. I just- and I don't know if that's
That's beautiful.
mindfulness. I don't know what that is, but I have this deep energetic it's difficult to describe just constant hunger for, it's not even understanding, it's just, of like, there I know there's so much more.
Yeah, and it is. I
It
mean, it's curiosity. It's not. Yes, it's not seeking to understand. It's being curious about what's happening. Right. It's
Yeah,
an interesting. It's an interesting world. I love it. That I think it's beautiful.
yeah, it's that I just watched The Matrix for the first time in a
No.
very long time the other day, and I couldn't stop thinking about it because
Yeah.
it's just such a it's an incredible movie that was done in 1999, and the amount of, uh, futurist content in
Yeah.
that movie that
It is.
has come
Yeah.
that is now true is just like when there's so many like people on that level that we are surrounded by, and that to me is it's just pure magic.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really interesting when you look at movies like The Matrix. I feel that they channeled because
Yes.
like 1999, that blows my mind. It was just 26 years ago. It's like, wait, what? And it feels like it was channeled. It feels like it was preparing us for what's coming. And it just at the time we probably watched it. It's like, wow, that's a really cool movie. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. And it just kind of like plays away at the back of our mind somewhere until we're ready to. I really
Yeah,
feel like the universe is kind and always giving us signals if we're listening.
it really is. Yeah.
It's one of the things that always fascinates me about you is your healing modality. I wonder if you know that you're a healer and the way that you heal is through the work
Hmm.
that you do.
I don't know if I've ever called myself a healer. Mm-mm.
But if you look at the work that you've done with people one to one and groups, can you feel how they're shifting with the work that you're doing?
Yeah. 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 I've even had people reach out to me. Um, TikTok has been a big platform for me.
Nice.
And you talk about ebbs and flows and the funny things that happen in our society. But when it was being banned for the whole 24 hours that everyone thought it was going to go away, um, it was beautiful to have people reach out to me and say, you really helped me. Like you got me communicating with more people. You got me telling my story. Um, and that was that that I call it warm fuzzies. I was like, I was not
So
expecting
beautiful.
that. Yeah,
So, I'm asking you a little bit right now, but I'm letting you know that you're a healer.
thank you.
I'm asking you to accept, just in this moment, the work that you've done. So, I'd love for you to describe it in a bit more detail. When you're working with somebody one to one, sure, take us through what you do, but also how does it feel? How does it make you feel?
It feels, I'm getting teary-eyed. It feels magical. It's especially the people who show up and do the hard work in a really open-hearted way. Um, I lead them through breathing exercises. We drop in first. I always check in. Where are you at? How are you feeling? What do you need? Uh, and then we'll go through some breathing exercises. I get them a little goofy. We'll do some tongue twisters. We'll move our bodies. Uh, I like to call it getting comfortably uncomfortable. And then we start to craft whatever it is that they're presently working on, whether that be a big high stakes presentation or whether that be a story that they're just crafting, or sometimes people come to me because they have a training that they're trying to put together and they just need to figure out the composition of it. Uh, and we have fun doing that too. And even when it's high stakes and it can be somewhat, I'm doing serious, I'm doing air quotes. We still, I find the lightness in it, and it's cool. It's just really fun. It's very gratifying. It's so nice when clients have aha moments.
Isn't it beautiful?
Mhm.
And that's why I just felt from somewhere to compelled to call you to remind you that you're a healer because traditionally the word when we say healer,
Mhm.
it has a connotation, right? People get an image. It's that maybe it's a tarot card reader, maybe it's an Akasha record reader, whatever that, but somebody in some kind of room doing some kind of healing. But our gifts can come in so many different forms, and our healing modalities doesn't need to come into a box.
Yeah.
I feel like in so many ways, all of us have a healing vibration. Our energy, our light is naturally healing.
Yeah.
So when I confirm to you that you're a healer, how does that make you feel?
It feels good. It feels I'm trying to find the words because what happened when you said that too is I had this little montage movie in my head. I'm a very visual person of uh growing just my brother, my father, um how I'm such a deep feeler. Like I can feel the energy of other people around me. I feel pain. I if I could, I would help everybody. Um Sometimes I get so overwhelmed with it, I become paralyzed.
And that's the thing about healers, right? Is natural empaths. You feel other people's energies, and it does
Exactly.
consume you.
Mhm.
And that's why, again, I feel the conversation we had at the beginning about pain is inevitable. I feel is important because so many people that are here to heal want to also fix people's pain, feel everybody else's pain, and want to stop everybody else's pain. And it's just an interesting journey to shift from wanting to fix to holding space.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you've heard this before too, but just when you have a feeling, like even if it's a painful feeling, it really only takes the body. If you allow yourself to just really feel the feels, 90 seconds. It takes the body 90 seconds to feel the feels.
How powerful. I love it.
And oftentimes we cut it off. So it's almost as if it's like we keep it's like a scab that we just keep picking at and picking at and picking at.
And we
Uh,
put band-aids on it instead of
yeah, and you just keep so if I think about my child, I don't want to pick her scab. I want her to experience the feelings and not stop the flow of that so that she can just be more in tune and
yeah. But how often when we feel something, instead of feeling it, we go and Google
oh god,
it.
guilty. I mean, it's right there.
But isn't it interesting? It's like you're so true. Within 90 seconds, our body is a natural communicator as to what's happening in our world.
Yeah,
But how
yeah.
often do we tap into that? And instead of tapping into it, we go and Google it. It's just
Or we Google it or we do well, I remember when my dad passed away, I became the rock, right? So there wasn't really I was the person that had to take care of the things, and negotiate the people, and I will never forget that when I left my parents' house and flew back to Colorado, where I was living at the time, I sat on the couch, and it was that floodgate of hysteric crying, like uncontrollable, just release.
the quiet moments.
Those quiet moments that again, the curiosity, if I had allowed myself to feel or had had the space to feel in other moments what that quiet moment would have looked like. Would it have been different? Would it have been so intense? And it's not to, it is what it was, but it's always a curiosity for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, grief is such an interesting journey. There's no right or wrong way, right?
No. And it pops up in weird moments too.
Yeah.
Several years later.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Just a couple of weeks ago, it's 30 years since my dad passed away. 30 years.
Yeah.
And I still think of him every day. And I still remember the moment he left. He was in India at the time, but I remember the phone call that I got from my brother to let me know and the journey. But it's 30 years. But it's interesting, the journey. I feel like now he's one of my guides. But I do feel like I've shifted in the grief from missing him to celebrating him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, I had no plans to take us here, but how do you feel you've taken that journey from, and there's always parts in the middle, right? But from missing your dad to celebrating him, how's that journey been for you?
Oh, it's been an intense one. Um, I missed him desperately, especially holiday gatherings, because he brought the fun. Uh, he brought the fun. And then I actually ended up. My father, his death was that he had a lot of secrets that we found out about when he was in a coma. And then his death was also on top of that. How he died was pretty mysterious. He was hit over the head, and he had 3 brain contusions. One doctor said he was hit by someone. Another doctor said perhaps he had fallen. We still to this day don't know. But um, so what ended up happening was, because of my curiosity, my performance background, I did 3 iterations of a performance piece based off of, inspired by the death of my father, to for me explore generational trauma. And I did the first one in 2017. It was this immersive piece that I did in my own home, and I only invited 5 audience members. And then I did another incarnation of it in 2018, just before the pandemic hit, where I hired 6 actors and workshopped it for a year and had a performance of it here in New York City. And then right after the pandemic in 2022, I did I call it a one-woman exhibit. I didn't call it a performance. I called it an exhibit that explored it. And I will say what happened that I found really interesting is that once I had done that exhibit and performed it, I then did a video presentation of it, so people who weren't able to see it got to see it. I had hired a videographer to do a 2-camera shoot of it. I felt released of something. I felt a very, like, this huge release, and most of the time when you produce something, people are like, what are you going to do with it next? And I have sat with this feeling, this very calm feeling of, I don't know. And that's okay that I don't know. It and
And
to
maybe
me,
it's complete.
it might be complete. And I feel like, how you just said your father is now your guide. I want to say that a transformation happened to where I now feel like he is my guide as well. So have felt that very strongly
So can you
lately.
tell us how? Well, first, I'd recommend to people to remind yourself when a loved one leaves this realm. Sometimes their energy is very different on the other side.
Mm,
And the
mhm,
reason I say that is, for years I didn't feel like my dad was around me. I felt like he was. I know he descended and he was doing other stuff. I had no, but actually, what I didn't realize is his energy, his vibration is different on the other side. So he's
mm,
always around me. So instead of feeling his energy coming in and out, So the
Mm.
vibration can be different. But how is it for you feeling your dad's energy around you and kind of feel like he's evolving and turning into one of your guides?
There's a sense of, it's this sense of like inner peace that I feel that is that it's not a constant, but it is present pretty much every day.
It's really interesting. This is definitely not a channel. This is definitely not a healing session, but I definitely feel his energy around you. And he's very much taller than and larger than life.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
and by the way, I commend you on how the journey you've taken and the performances that you did in terms of dealing with that grief. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. It was it's so funny because I also had this resistant piece too, which was like,
Yeah.
this is not me working through my trauma on stage. This is not that
No,
show.
because of course I'm not going to do this publicly, right? Why would I?
Well, I think that was part of the reason why I hired actors. I think it was, I I feel like I needed to. I used to be a part of this group called Playback Theater West, and Playback is this international group that is improv based, where an audience member, and it was started by psychotherapists, but an audience member comes on stage and tells a story, a significant moment in their life, and then casts the actors to then play back that moment. And sometimes
Wow.
they would ask for like a different ending or and so forth. So I feel like what I was kind of doing without saying that's what I was doing is that I was casting these actors to play back these moments of my life as a way for me to heal, and I didn't realize that that's what I was doing in the moment. So then when I was called to then do this one woman exhibit, um, I'd worked through a lot of that.
Yeah.
So that
It's an interesting journey where you created something to heal through others, which then the completion cycle was for you then to be the one woman to then it's a beautiful journey.
thank you.
Do you feel how healing that would be for others as you work through what you know the way that your journey, but as you expressed it, can you feel how healing that would be for the people receiving
Yes, and that is why I'm in the process of tricking people.
it? What does that even mean? Tricking them into what? Hold on. Are you going to publicly share right now? You know, what does that look like?
No, there's such a there's a huge population of people that are just scared to step into possibly being vulnerable in front of another person in a real way. So, and when I say trick, I mean that,
I know, just
jokingly,
joking. I'm
but
just yeah.
but it
Let's call it guide.
I'm guiding people. So I'm putting together a retreat in Colorado um in October. And there some of the people who've been working with me for a while who know what I'm about, they will be there, but it's I'm cultivating an experience for people to be able to explore in that particular kind of way. And I'm trying to reframe it so that people don't feel this formality of a presentation. So I'm reframing it. I'm calling
Yeah.
it a recipe.
So
And I'm going to give you ingredients. And then you're going to create something with those ingredients that is uniquely and beautifully and authentically you.
that's so beautiful, and I use that same analogy with some of my clients in terms of creating a recipe for you, which is unique.
Yeah.
You put your own, your own qualities at you, and it's just no right or wrong.
No right
Just
or wrong.
you're creating your own masterpiece. And I feel like it's needed, which is why I kind of joked with you that I feel like we're all being pushed to be seen and we're all resisting. Or some of us are resisting, sorry, I should say. Some of
So,
us love to be seen.
well, it's because I feel like it's so tricky. It's so vulnerable for people. On one hand, I mean, if we're going to talk about being seen, there's so many ways we can be seen.
Sure.
There's so many ways we can be seen. I would guess, I'm going to make a huge assumption right now that because we are in an attention economy, that there's a lot of confusion about what that means to be seen and fear of being judged. And so I feel like perhaps a lot of that resistance comes from the fear of being judged,
Mhm.
and or possibly being the person that says the thing that everybody else is thinking first, and then not knowing how to hold the space for themselves when everyone starts to say, yes, I see that, I hear that. So,
It is so true. And it was also, when we talk about being seen, even those people comfortable being seen, I feel like they're comfortable sharing a version of themselves.
mhm,
I feel like sharing all of us, and I'll always use the phrase things like how we do one thing is how we do everything, and that's how I like to show up. Who I am is who I am, regardless of what role I'm playing. But it's interesting when you're in the public eye, sometimes you need to put on avatar, right? You put on a different,
yeah.
and there's no right or wrong in that, right? It just is, and we play different roles, and it's just an interesting journey. And even the grief part, and again, I feel like the reason that we dived in is I feel like so many of us have been through some kind of rebirth, and actually we're grieving the old version of ourselves.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
And actually, sometimes we're holding on to that old version, and we're kicking and screaming and don't want to let him or her go. And just an interesting time.
Yeah, well, I realized I hadn't grieved my old self, or that I I needed to grieve my old self. Like for 20 plus years, I was the performer. That's how I identified. Uh, and there's still a part of me that I actually was at Sardi's. For those who don't know what Sardi's is, it's a famous New York restaurant where if you go in, there's drawings, caricature drawings of famous people on the walls. And I was in there with a theater company that I was a part of for many years, and it was just interesting because every person leads with what are you working on?
Oh,
What's the project you got going on? And it was beautiful to just sit there and notice what I was noticing. And for the first time, I would say in a very long time, I just felt so like at peace with who I am and where I'm at. And I didn't feel the need to be like, I don't have a project to tell them about, or like, I don't have, like my
isn't
agent
that
doesn't,
so
like
powerful?
it felt so good. I was just like
Yeah.
this sage in the room that just was there to be there.
And you were just being. You were
I
just
was just
being.
being. It was
Yeah,
really
just
fun.
so powerful. So, what would your advice be if somebody is trying to kind of release and go through a rebirth and going through a shift and feels like maybe they need to tell a story, but actually we're encouraging them to be their authentic self? What would your advice be to somebody who's going through a shift like that?
Uh, to start small, just take a baby step. Just notice. One of my favorite little quotes is notice what you notice. I believe Allen Ginsberg said that, but just notice what you notice. Just like maybe you have a story that you want to tell and you're in a place where you feel like, I feel like I can tell this. I feel like I can share this truth about myself. Maybe you find someone that you trust, a loved one that you trust, and then you share a bit of that story with them. And then when you're done sharing that story and you've parted ways with that person for the day, you notice what you feel in your body. You notice what are the thoughts in your head. Maybe you journal about it, but just notice what you notice. And then the next time when you're feeling the bravery and you're with somebody that you trust, you tell them that story. And then you notice what you notice. And then maybe it's two people. So I always say start small. It's like you pepper it in. Uh, that's those little small leaps of
So
faith.
beautiful. So beautiful. And the consistent part of everything you talked about was to always look inside, look within,
Hmm.
be honest with how you're feeling inside. And For me, that awareness is always a place you start. And then manifest the right people to talk to. Community we talked about earlier is so important.
Yeah.
And maybe if you listen to this, maybe you can be that person for somebody else.
Yeah. Hmm.
Maybe you could. And it's hard because a lot of the time we struggle to actively listen. If somebody's sharing something deep with us, we want to jump in and stop their pain. Or when actually actively listening to somebody, being there with the full heart, not thinking about how you're going to respond, how you're going to think, is so powerful. That for me is the ultimate holding space.
Yeah, it is so powerful to be heard too, and not have someone there trying to give you a solution.
So how do you, in your heart, how do you feel how do you feel about the future? How do you feel, when I talk about 2 years of chaos, and how does that make you feel in terms of what the planet's shifting and what it's going through?
I'm an optimistic human being. I often talk about being in the messy middle and that there's magic on the other side of it. I feel that we are in the messy middle. Um, we've been here before. And I do feel that a lot emerges that's beautiful. Uh, maybe there will be more art in the world. Maybe there will
Nice.
be um, more, I'm going to use the word mindfulness in the world. Maybe we'll reprioritize the things that we thought were important. But I tend to see things in a hopeful way. And again, there will be pain, but I do appreciate what you say about the suffering piece. Um, I have to say, I I started off this year. So my birthday is December 31st, and I turned 50 on December
Wow,
30th.
we have a big party on every year for you.
We
How
do have a big party. I have never been so excited about going into 2025. I've never felt like this alive, and there's a reason for it. So I'm choosing to follow that.
Wow. So when you can feel the shift for you personally, being in a fire, kind of turning 50, humanly, obviously, there's lots of connotations with that. Having a birthday on New Year's Eve, which again must be really interesting. How is that journey of embracing a new energy, a new vibration? I'm asking because it feels like it's important for us to guide people on embracing that new energy. How was that for you?
For me, it's incredible. To me, it feels incredible. It feels like it's energetically, if I could, it feels like energy is literally coming up through my feet and through my legs and through my solar plexus, and just it's like this. It's just it's like I feel, and it's all momentum forward. It's all momentum forward, and that is, I haven't felt that in a very long time. It feels almost like when I was a kid and anything was possible. Like that's what it felt like. I remember when I would daydream as a kid and imagine myself in certain situations, whether that be on a stage or meeting a famous person or whatever I was fantasizing about, right? It was that is the feeling that I've tapped back into, which is really fun.
I love it. You're definitely a very visual person.
Yes.
So when you are manifesting or when you're feeling your guides around you, when you're on the spiritual journey, what is that like for you?
It's like it is like a montage moment in a movie. It's just these I dream in color. Even
Right.
I major motion pictures are playing in my head as I sleep. It's and when I have these visualizations of my future or who I am now, it's image based. That's the best I can describe it.
I love it. I love it. And actually, one of the things I just did with another client is if we step out of our body and just, again, just view the last few years as a movie and just realize that everything we've been through is bringing us to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of step out because when you're in it, it's really hard, right? When you look back and you feel the pain of the past few years and,
Yeah.
grieving and everything we've been through. But actually, when you step out, you see the steps the universe took to bring you to this space. You start to get more awareness as to why certain things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that feel for you when I ask you to step out of your body and just look at the journey for you for the last few years and kind of look at the more painful moments, maybe in a different perspective, and to realize that maybe he was guiding you to be this excited about what's coming? How does that make you feel?
Uh it's so funny because I'm really trying to see. I'm just really right now trying to pull myself out of myself and looking at it from the outside in. And the image I keep getting is my daughter. And so I'm feeling a lot of love and hope for my daughter who um, has struggled a little bit over the last few years, and that's where I feel a lot of the pain has lived for our family, is just how to support her better. So I would say, for me, it's an overwhelming feeling of optimism and hope.
Beautiful. And it is hard for kids in these age, right? There's so much more pressure. There's a different sort of pressure. And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel it for them for sure. It's different. And as humans, there's maybe we have a bit more experience. And it's really interesting. As kids, sometimes maybe it's easier to dream big. But as humans, we have more experience to deal with how we're feeling inside. It's kind of
Mm.
an interesting energy and an interesting shift. So I'm sending so much love and light. Um, so I'm curious, what do you feel the future holds for you? What's coming next for you? If you were visualizing?
I am visualizing taking what I know and love, which is helping people tell their stories and this performance element, and merging those to leave a bigger impact in the world by creating immersive experiences for people where they're in conversation with each other. My whole goal as a speaker coach is to get people to start creating experiences for their audiences and not just talking at their audiences, and to get their audiences to be interacting more with each other for deeper learning and understanding of concepts, because I feel that there needs to be a shift. There needs just to be a shift in the way that we share information, and there needs to be a shift in how we receive it and give it. Um, that feels like a big, huge
Yeah,
undertaking and passion project of mine, but I am convinced that I'm not alone in my thinking.
beautiful. I'm sure. No, definitely not. That shift is happening, and people need guidance. And it's always good to remember that different people are assigned to different people.
Yeah. Yep.
It's all contracts. So in today's world, if our conversation resonated with people and somebody wanted to reach out and work with you, what would that look like? How should they reach out? Is it something you only do in person? Is it something you do online? What would that experience look like, and how should people go about it?
Yeah, I do both. I work on virtually here, and or I can work with you in person or your team in person. You can get a hold of me in many ways, LinkedIn being one of them, or you can email me at Meridith at Grundei Coaching.
And on TikTok,
Uh,
apparently.
I'm on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok. I don't know for how much longer, but I will be there.
Sure.
I've recently started the Blue Sky and the Substack. Those are the place. I mean, you can Google me. You'll
I mean,
find me.
I'll include the links in the show notes so people won't have to Google you. But sure, they can Google you too. Maybe they just feel your energy inside, but sure.
Yes. You
I
can
love it.
send a carrier pigeon. Come visit me
Sure.
here in New York City. Whatever.
Whatever works. Hey, they
Yeah.
can reach out to your guides. Who knows, right?
Exactly.
But so I guess as we close on this episode, I'd love for any kind of final insights you have in anyone that may be struggling with the shift and the changing environment, and
Mm.
or maybe some general prompts, anything you feel compelled to share.
Yeah, the first thing that popped in my head, I have this beautiful mentor, Barbara Dilley, who, when I was taking meditation with her, would always use the phrase, not too tight, not too loose. So I am going to share not too tight, not too loose. And that is a guiding principle for me throughout my life, not too tight, not too loose. And so I'd love to share that with you and your
Needs to be on
listeners.
a t-shirt, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to share with the audience. Meredith, I've loved this conversation with you. I'm sure that you'll be back at some point in the future. I love the light that is shining. I feel like the way you heal people is a unique, taking them on a journey. And thank you for being so open on this podcast. And yeah, if to my listeners, if Meredith's voice resonated, I'll always say that if you want to reach out to somebody, what's your intention? And here's their soul contract. So if something we've said to you today touches your heart and soul, then reach out. Meredith, thank you for sharing this space with me, sending you so much love and light, and sending everyone that's listening love and light. If you're going through something, just remember that the universe is never going to give you anything you can't handle, and maybe become curious as to how it is expanding you, how it is supporting you. And Meredith, I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
Well, I want to say thank you. This has been a really beautiful hour spent with you in this conversation. I'm just full of gratitude. That's how I would love to close out, is say thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending so much love and light out. Bye for everybody. Bye to everybody for now, and see you soon.